Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Dr. Hyena. Welcome back to another video. Now, this is going to be kind of a part two of the frequently asked questions or questions and answers series for Eternal Enemies. So, let's get right into it. So, firstly, a question that I get a lot more than I would have expected is, will you make roleplay servers? So, basically, these in concept would be servers where you wouldn't have any PvP aspects. You would just kind of roleplay. It would just be like complete sandbox. I will be honest, I'm not a big fan of this at all. I've always been, more into like survival games myself. Just, growing up, I played so many of those. Um, and I have nothing against roleplay games. Like I've tried a couple back in the day. Mostly like just to kind of check out what my friends were doing. If I'm being honest, like I myself wasn't really into it. It's just like, sometimes I would see one of my buddies on there and just like hit join game. I'd be like, "Oh, what's this?" And oftentimes I would think it's like a survival game, but no, it's just you just sit around and talk with your friends or whatever, which again, there's nothing wrong with, but that's definitely not what I'm into. So yeah, definitely no roleplay servers on any of my games. Um that does lead us pretty well into question number two, which I don't get asked nearly as much, but I have been seeing it more and more as of late, so I'll address it here. Will there be a more hyena-focused game similar to Eternal Enemies, but without like the playable lions? I would absolutely love to do this. I think it would be pretty fantastic. Over the past year and a half or 2 years or so, I definitely have noticed a lot of people compare my game to Wolf Quest, I believe, which I didn't really try Wolf Quest at all until like very recently this year. Like I've owned it on Steam for a while, but I didn't actually play it until again just like a couple months ago, if even that. And I've only really played it twice with just a friend of mine who's kind of teaching me the ropes in that game. So I can see where a lot of the comparisons come from, but I do think, fundamentally they are gonna still feel like very different games. Hyena behavior is so different from what wolves do, especially with like the social aspects and the cubs often like in areas with like not much prey density year round, having to like kind of compete with each other for the mother's milk. Like the hyena moms, they only have like two teats, right? So if you have like a third cub, that one is not gonna have the best chances of survival. It's not impossible, some hyena moms definitely do manage to pull it off. But it's just such an inherently different premise with that. um I think hyenas also like they like go kind of staying with the food related stuff, right? They definitely seem to eat more relative to like their body weight. Like I think they can consume up to a third of their weight in a single meal if they're really hungry. So yeah, that tends to drive a lot more just competition within the clan. And there's more of a actual like defined hierarchy. It's in a lot of ways, they're more like primates than they are like other carnivorans. So, yeah, when you have an animal that's like that highly like intelligent and socially complex compared to like a canine, that's not really a good point of comparison. In terms of like basic survival stuff, sure. But even then, like the ecosystems they live in are so inherently different. And if I did a game like this, I would actually want there to be like multiple different maps that represent like different parts of the continent of Africa where spotted hyenas live. Because you often think of them as just a savanna animal, but the reality is, they are super super adaptable. And they can live in like open woodlands. They've even been in like the highlands, not super high up, but like on the slopes of the highlands in Ethiopia. So it's really interesting. Um And even how they interact with humans is very different to some other carnivores. So yeah, I would want to explore all of those different assets, or excuse me, facets of hyena life. Um, if I were to do a game like that. So that would be an absolutely massive undertaking. I would love to do it, but I'm not sure exactly when I'll have the time to do that. So that's definitely an idea I've been looking into a lot lately. Um, Again, I'm just not sure exactly when I'm gonna start on something like that. And you will see why I'm saying that if you keep watching this video, because there is there's a lot that I'm working on. It's definitely not just like eternal enemies and Wrath of Nature. So going on to the next question, actually very much related to what I just said there. Will map updates or new locations be added to eternal enemies? Very possibly, yes. Um, like I just kind of mentioned, eternal enemies, it is like a priority of mine, but I don't know if I would really say if it's like the top priority, because I am going into my senior year of college, so that'll be very interesting, and I am taking a lot of classes. So yeah, it's going to be a tough year. But I am looking forward to it. Um and even outside of school, I am gonna be working on some other stuff. Trust me, we'll get to that in just a moment. But yeah, okay. Moving to the next question: will there be more sales throughout the year? Absolutely yes. So for those who don't know right now, there is the back to school sale going on. So just while people are kind of getting back into, well, school. um, I am hosting a little sale on Eternal Enemies. Basically, every Game Pass, so anything that costs Robux directly is 50% of what it would usually cost. Except for like the coin bundles, like those are still about the same. Um, like if you pay Robux to get coins, right now it's the same as like throughout the rest of the year, right? But the Game Passes, so things like the White Lions, being able to customize all of your cubs as many times as you want, that's a new feature, and that is on sale for half off right now. So all those game passes, right, they're all 50% of their usual prices. Um, Now don't feel too bad if you miss this sale, because it really only has a couple days left. But after that, there will probably be, like possibly a Halloween sale, probably something around Christmas time, maybe something in between then as well, like Thanksgiving sort of deal. But yeah, basically lots of sale opportunities coming up, and yeah, definitely looking forward to releasing those for you guys. And then again, very much in the same vein for question 5, why do certain things cost Robux instead of just costing in-game currency? So basically, with in-game currency, those are kind of things that you're supposed to, grind for. Whereas the game passes, the way I see it at least, is that those are like luxury items, like the white lion. White lions don't live in this part of Africa. Like, in fact, they only live in like, I think one or two prides have ever produced white lions naturally in the wild. And even when the white individuals breed with other lions, usually they're not really going to have white offspring. It's kind of like with white tigers. It's not, I don't think it's quite as extreme as that, but basically every white lion is at least somewhat inbred. So yeah, it's not great. Similar kind of deal with erythrism, like those are genetic defects more than anything else. And usually animals with those mutations, they're gonna have a really hard time surviving, not even just because of the color, but also because they're super prone to getting diseases. They've got a really weak immune system. A lot of them are blind or deaf. So yeah, it's really something you don't want to see in nature. um it's just as humans, we kind of think like, oh, this looks cool, but in reality, that's not a good situation for that animal at all. In fact, any AZA accredited zoo, they're not gonna allow breeding of like white lions or white tigers like at all. Um, so yeah, definitely something to keep in mind whenever you're, planning to visit a zoological facility. Like, if they have a white lion or a white tiger that's like, since then it's been like spayed or neutered, then that's one thing. But if they're actively breeding those animals, absolutely do not support those kinds of facilities because, yeah, there's no way the ethics of that are any good whatsoever. But yeah, that was my little side tangent on white lions and whatnot. They're beautiful, obviously visually, but again, it's just not something that's really supposed to happen in nature. So moving on to question number 6. What is the next thing I will be working on? So basically, I am going to be very careful with how I word this because, if I spoil too much, then it's going to be like kind of, it would feel a little bit pointless to even like play the game because part of it is a story mode, part of it is survival mode. Of course, I'm talking about Into the Jungle. So basically, what I want to have, I don't want to say a date, but within the next few months or so, would be the survival mode. So it would be open world survival. You're playing as a human. There probably would be, some form of little quests, if you want to call them that, or tasks that you can do, just like around the in-game world. You would obviously interact with a lot of like animal NPCs. You would interact with quite a few like human NPCs as well. And I think I would make this multiplayer, maybe not huge servers, but definitely something where you could have at least a little party of friends and whatnot. Um, just kind of, surviving in this world together. So for Into the Jungle, the world of Ilathi is what I'm calling it, which is basically Zulu for woods or forests, right? Or jungle. This would basically be a fictional universe that I'm just kind of making up. There are certain things that are going to be serving as inspiration, but I recently just rewrote the story for the story mode of the game, and I gotta be honest, that was pretty much all just my own imagination. Like the basic premise you could say is like somewhat inspired by the 2017 and 2019 Jumanji films. And I guess the upcoming one does some of that as well, where like the characters kind of go into this sort of fictional universe and they have to survive. There's certain objectives, blah blah blah. Um, Certain characters have like certain abilities, right? But beyond that, it really is just kind of my own ideas. So I wouldn't exactly call it a Jumanji game, and frankly, from what I've seen of the official Jumanji games, they're not great. I haven't played the board game. I've heard that's pretty good, but like the video games, even the official ones apparently are not the greatest. So yeah, not definitely not gonna be taking any inspiration from those. But like, just from like the basic premise of the film, perhaps. Um, and yeah, like I said though, I don't want to spoil any of the story because with a story mode game especially, right? That is just such a bummer whenever like the story itself is just like spoiled to you. It's like when a movie's spoiled and you know everything like, beat for beat, like how the movie's gonna go. It's like, okay, why even see it? If you just know exactly what to expect. And speaking of what to expect, question 7 also relating to Into the Jungle is, will there possibly be like a sequel game or a prequel game? Absolutely yes. I mean, obviously, you have to see how the first chapter of the story, so to speak, goes, but it's definitely, I think written in a way that I could easily expand on the universe, the story that I'm gonna have in the first story mode game, that is, kind of just your introduction to that world and, those characters and their abilities and all that jazz. Um, it's definitely not like meant to be the final thing, like, oh yeah, it's not meant to be like one and done, like here's this and that's all you get. Like, no. I definitely want to, continue my sort of creative process within that world. So that's something I could definitely see myself doing for the next like 5 plus years, if I'm being honest. I think it's just something with absolutely massive potential for its own little franchise, just like I mentioned with Wrath of Nature. I know I haven't been working on Wrath of Nature a whole lot. I've been wanting to recode it from the ground up, just like Eternal Enemies, and sort of some of the pieces of the puzzle are certainly there, so to speak, but actually getting it all together, that has been, pretty tedious, and that's why you don't have anything out just yet for that. But I definitely will be working on both Wrath of Nature and Into the Jungle, for the next few years to come. So, yeah, hopefully that answers all your guys' main questions. If you have more, feel free to leave them in the comments and whatnot. I always read all the comments, and yeah, I hope you guys have a fantastic day or night or whatever it is for you. So, I will see you guys in the next video. Till then, take care, peace out, and goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.